Hi everyone. Today we are going to be looking at a rum from Puerto Rico, and not Bacardi in this particular case, and not Ron Barrilito, but from the Distillation Cerralles, which makes the Don Q. Now, this is the goal. There's several rums that they make, and they tend to divide them up into three tranches. So there's uh, the traditional bottom feeders, if you will. So that's the 151, that's the Cristal, which I've already reviewed. There is the Gold, which is this one. But then they also have a line of flavored rums, which don't interest me at all for various reasons I'll get into one of these days. And then there's the Sorayas collection, which is more interesting experimental stuff. So that's barrel aged, they might put a sherry cask in there, they might put something a little bit more strong, and so on and so forth. So we'll start at the bottom. That's just my way of doing it. I had the opportunity to try a lot of their range not too long ago, so I think I'm just going to start at the bottom and work my way up. So as I say, this is the Gold. Now, the real question is, what is it? Well, it is a column still rum made from molasses, short fermentation time. It adheres to all the markers of the Spanish or Latin Ron style, just like Bacardi does. It is run through a multi-column still after a short fermentation period, and then it's put to rest in barrels, and it's a blend of rums aged from 1.5 years to 5. So essentially, it's a 1.5-year-old rum. Now, this corresponds pretty much to the standard mixing entry level rums that they call ambres or golds or browns or whatever, and it's meant to be a mixer, but one always is very interested to see whether they can go beyond that. And like, for example, the Dourly's 3-year-old, which was a 3-year-old, but really had chops that was really quite impressive. Now, it's always interesting to see whether we're going to get something like that from, a Spanish-style rum maker. There are some good ones out there, after all. And there's always been good words said about Don Q. They lack some of the negativity that some people seem to have towards Bacardi, perhaps because of its ubiquity. But on Puerto Rico, it seems like Cerralles is pretty much the most popular rum in the place. A question that people tend to have every now and then is, what's with the Don Q? Well, the patriarch of the family actually came to Puerto Rico in 1820. They started a sugar plantation, and somewhere around, I think it was 1865 or thereabouts, they produced their first rum from that sugar factory after figuring out there may be a business involved there, and they've gone from strength to strength. It's interesting that all the production notes for this say that it's made the same way as the Cristal, which is white and filtered, but it really isn't, because they specifically say that it's been produced in such a way as to give a more flavorful profile. And that suggests that they've used the first column of the 1934 Vendome still to produce a heavier aguardiente, and this comes off the still at about 7 to 75%, and then they blend that in with the lighter rums that come off the rest of the multi-column still at about 90, 95%, right? So it does have a little bit more of the congeners and the esters and so on that stay there. Low enough, but enough to give it a little bit more of a profile. Over and beyond that, there's not really much to say. So the real question is, how is it? The production notes on the website make the statement that it tends to have a lot of nice little rummy notes, and that's with all the other adjectives that they love to add to all these things. Now, I don't deny that, but at 40% ABV, the truth is that there really isn't a whole lot there that you couldn't get somewhere else. And more to the point, it doesn't break any new ground. Like, I've had a lot of rums from new distilleries from all over the place, and they really tend to try and make themselves stand out with something. This is completely standard. When they say rum, they really mean it, right? So what we have here is the vanilla notes from the ex-bourbon barrels. We've got a little bit of leather. It's a little bit dry. There's supposedly no additives, although it has been chill filtered, apparently. A little bit of caramel, a little bit of toffee, blancmange, a little bit of cinnamon, and somewhere along the back of the nose, you're going to kind of find a little bit of citrus. But the truth is, it's slim pickings. It really is. And if you taste it, pretty much the same thing, right? You are not getting anything particularly different here from what a standard rum, if there even is such a thing, actually is. But really, what I'm seeing here is a bit of oakiness, a bit of vanilla, caramel, bit of molasses, very, very faint, a bit of cinnamon, and just not a lot else. So the question then arises, well, what exactly are we doing with this? Well, you have to remember what it's made for. This thing is actually made to be a mixing rum. And as a consequence, they're not going to spend a whole lot of time trying to make it the best possible, 1.5 to 5 year old on the planet. It just isn't that kind of product. And the fact that it is part of their basic range, so like an entry level cheap rum, pretty much says it all. What I see in it mostly is a sense of potential. There is stuff that's going to come out of this that's going to be more exemplified by the older, more aged versions, the a bit more complicated blends that they produce up and down the line. For the moment, I would score this no more than about 78. Remember for me that 75 is pretty much the midpoint after which it starts to get progressively worse. It's not quite that bad, of course not. It's not average. It's just good enough for government work, and that's pretty much where I would leave it. A point I want to make, though, is that if you're into the cocktail circuit and you like making your mixes and your mojitos and your daiquiris and whatever, this would probably work a little bit better. And therefore, on that basis, as a mixer, it might actually score a little bit higher for you. For me, 78 is just about right. And I think that the other rums that come after it, like the Seven and the Sherry Age and the Cask Line and so on, are going to be more interesting, but it's too early to tell until I actually get down to those. For the moment, this is pretty much the review as it is, and I hope you find it interesting and useful. Until then, next time, take care of everybody. Bye-bye.